Welcome back to the Deep Dive. If you're joining us, you are probably looking for a fundamental shift in how you think about money, right?
Yes, absolutely. We're moving beyond that old idea, just working for a paycheck week after week.
We want to get into the core principles of actually having your money start working for you instead.
That's really the mission today. We're digging deep into the ideas, mostly from the contrast between the rich dad and poor dad philosophies. We want to break down not just the theory, but the real practical steps.
And the mindset shifts, too. That seems crucial.
Oh, definitely. The mindset shifts, the financial mechanics involved, and maybe most importantly, the psychological hurdles. The things that stop people from taking control of their money.
It really all starts with that initial story, doesn't it?
hmm
The narrator having these two father figures.
hmm It's such a powerful setup. Two intelligent, influential men in his life, but their advice, their paths, led to drastically different places financially.
On one hand, you've got his biological father, the poor dad, highly educated, advanced degrees, scholarships. I mean, the picture of academic success by any normal standard.
Right, but struggled financially his whole life.
And then the contrast. His best friend's father, the rich dad, didn't even finish 8th grade, I think.
That's right. Lacked that formal schooling, but had incredible financial intelligence, applied it relentlessly, and became, well, one of the wealthiest men in Hawaii.
The end results just speak for themselves, don't they?
Starkly. The educated poor dad dies, leaving bills, debts. The rich dad, the dropout, leaves tens of millions behind. To his family, charities, his church.
It must have forced the narrator, even as a kid, to really think, to choose which path, which set of beliefs about money actually work.
It wasn't about being smart in school. It was about which financial operating system, as you put it, to install.
And the book frames it immediately with those two clashing quotes about money.
Exactly. They capture the core conflict perfectly. Poor dad, the academic, repeating that common phrase, the love of money is the root of all evil.
A very ingrained belief for many.
But rich dad flips it completely. The lack of money is the root of all evil.
Wow. That's a fundamental disagreement right there.
It is. Imagine being a kid hearing those two things from people you respect. One says money's bad. The other says not having it is the real problem. It forces you to question, doesn't it?
It demands you choose a philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, Rich Dad's results kind of validated his viewpoint, didn't they? Not just about wealth, but stability, influence.
It showed that the underlying beliefs really mattered.
So where do these different financial programs come from? You mentioned the home environment earlier.
Yeah, the book argues pretty strongly that money lessons are primarily taught at home. And that's a problem because, well, the traditional school system doesn't really touch finance in a practical way.
Right. That's a huge point in the source material. Schools are great at teaching scholastic skills, professional skills. They make excellent doctors, lawyers, accountants.
People who perform high-level jobs.
Exactly. But financial skills.
Yeah.
How money actually works.
It's
That's it.
tipped. Which explains that paradox you see all the time, right? Highly educated people, high earners even, still living paycheck to paycheck, drowning in debt.
It's baffling sometimes.
And it's not just individual households. Think bigger picture. The national debt, economic instability, a lot of that is managed by very educated people, politicians, economists.
Sure.
But maybe they lack that fundamental rich dad financial training themselves. So if most financial education happens at home, and most homes are struggling financially.
You just perpetuate the cycle, poor financial programming get passed down.
Precisely. So the rich dad philosophy insists the very first step is like a software update for your brain. And it starts with something as simple as language.
Oh, the I can't afford it versus how can I afford it?
That's the one. Poor dad's go-to phrase was, I can't afford it. Statement of fact, end of story.
Closes the brain down.
Exactly. Rich dad forbade those words. He insisted on turning it into a question. Okay, how can I afford it?
Such a simple shift, but the impact.
It's profound. It's about mental laziness versus mental exercise. I can't afford it lets your brain off the hook. It stops thinking.
But how can I afford it forces the brain to engage, to look for solutions, possibilities.
Rich dad apparently saw the brain as the most powerful computer on earth. He believed that just like physical exercise makes you healthier, mental exercise specifically around solving money problems makes you wealthier.
Just asking how is like doing financial push-ups for the brain.
That's a great analogy. Poor dad let his financial brain atrophy by accepting limitations. Rich dad constantly worked his out by demanding solutions, finding the challenge.
This difference, this mental workout habit, it showed up in everything, didn't it? Their views on Taxes, careers, risk, completely different frameworks.
Totally different operating systems. Let's maybe run through a few examples to see how deep this goes.
Good idea. Let's start with, say, taxes.
Okay. Poor dad's view. The rich should pay more taxes to support everyone else. A focus on redistribution, maybe a sense of fairness.
Pretty common viewpoint.
Very rich dad's view. Taxes punish the producers and reward the non-producers. He saw the system as something to understand and navigate legally, to minimize its impact, not just passively accept.
Interesting. Okay, what about career goals?
Poor dad. Study hard, get good grades, find a safe, secure job at a good company, work for a company. Emphasis on security.
The standard advice most kids get.
Absolutely. Rich dad, study hard to understand how money and markets work, then find a good company to buy or start your own. Focus on ownership, not employment.
Complete inversion. And risk. That's a big one.
Huge. Poor dad, play it safe with money, don't take risks. Fear-based advice.
Which sounds prudent to many people.
It does, but Rich dad countered. Learn to manage risk. Avoiding risk entirely means avoiding opportunity. Financial competence isn't about avoiding risk. It's about understanding it, mitigating the downside, and still going for the upside.
Okay, and the really controversial one, the house.
Yes.
Yeah.
Poor dad believed the family home was their biggest investment, their greatest asset. Standard middle-class thinking.
That's what almost everyone believes.
I know. Rich dad's take. A house is a liability, not an asset. And if it's your largest investment, you're in trouble.
Whoa. Okay, we definitely need to unpack why later, but the mindset difference is stark.
Absolutely. And one more. Security. Poor dad looked for security from his employer, from the government, pensions, benefits, tenure, an entitlement mentality, the book calls it.
Relying on external systems.
Yes. Rich dad preached total financial self-reliance. Financial competence is security, depending on a job or the government for security. That's a path to weakness in his view.
So putting it all together, their whole purpose for education was different.
Fundamentally, poor dad. Study hard to get a good job and work for money. Rich dad. Studying hard to understand money, become rich, and learn how to make money work for you.
That phrase again.
It's the mantra, I don't work for money, money works for me. That wasn't just a slogan, it was his entire operational strategy.
Okay, so moving from philosophy to practice. Rich Dad didn't just talk. He made them live these lessons, right?
Yeah.
Which leads straight into lesson 1. The rich don't work for money.
Exactly. It's about understanding that psychological trap where people spend their lives chasing a paycheck instead of building assets that generate income independently.
And this lesson started super young, didn't it? Like 9 years old. Because they got called poor kids.
Yeah, that sting of social comparison lit a fire under them. They immediately wanted to figure out how to get rich fast.
Their first attempt was interesting, making fake nickels.
Yes. Melting down lead toothpaste tubes. Obviously illegal, and it failed. But Rich Dad's reaction is key. He didn't scold them about the law.
What did he say?
He pointed out the core truth. You're only poor if you give up. The most important thing is you did something. Most people just talk and dream about getting rich. You actually tried.
Action over just dreaming. That's a recurring theme.
Immense emphasis on action. But the real lesson came next, with that infamous 10 cents an hour job.
The experiment. Dusting canned goods. Sounds thrilling.
Right. Rich Dad's teaching style was experiential, no lectures. He offered them this job, 3 hours every Saturday, 10 cents an hour.
Yeah.
Purposefully boring, purposefully low pay.
Setting them up to fail, or rather to get frustrated.
Exactly. He let them stew in it for 3 weeks. Tedious work, practically no money. The narrator finally snapped, got angry, felt used.
And confronted Rich Dad.
Yep. Accused him of being cheap, exploiting child labor. Basically sounded just like a typical disgruntled employee.
Mirroring his poor dad's complaints, probably.
And Rich Dad just smiled.
Pretty much. He explained that the anger, the frustration was the lesson. He said, that's life pushing you around.
Life pushes you.
Yeah. He said life pushes everyone. Low pay, difficult boss, mending bills. And most people react by blaming someone else, the boss, the job, the economy, their spouse, or they just quit. But they rarely stop and ask, what is life trying to teach me here?
So the 10 cents wasn't just cheapness, it was a simulation. It was a taste of life, he called it. That feeling of being underpaid and unappreciated, multiplied over a 50-year career. That's the reality for most people. They just accept it or fight it ineffectively, but they don't change their approach.
And this trap, this rat race, is driven by specific emotions.
2 primary ones, according to Rich Dad. Fear and greed, or maybe better termed desire.
Okay, explain that. Fear of what?
Fear of not having enough money, fear of being fired, fear of not paying the bills, fear of starting over. That fear is what gets most people out of bed and off to a job they might even hate. It's a powerful motivator.
And greed desire.
That's the pull. The desire for nicer things, a bigger house, a faster car, vacations, just the comfort money seems to promise. So fear pushes you out the door to work, and desire dangles the carrot of consumption to keep you going.
Get up, go to work, pay bills, repeat. The rat race.
Exactly. A perpetual motion machine fueled by those two emotions.
And it's not just poor people stuck in this.
No, Rich Dad was clear. Even rich people can be slaves to money. They might accumulate huge wealth, but then the fear of losing it becomes even stronger than the initial desire that drove them. They get trapped protecting assets instead of enjoying freedom.
So what breaks the cycle? How do you escape the push of fear and the pull of desire?
The key, he argued, is addressing the ignorance about money. He said fear and desire are magnified when you don't understand how money works. People react emotionally, panic, grab the first job offer, splurge on a raise instead of using their minds.
Thinking analytically instead of emotionally.
Precisely. He told the boys, most people let their emotions do the thinking when it comes to money. They run from fear straight into a lifetime of work, thinking the paycheck is the answer, instead of analyzing the problem, their lack of assets, and finding a real independent solution.
He was testing them even then, at 9 years old, seeing if they just take a raise, like a slightly better carrot.
Yes. He didn't want them to just accept a higher wage. He wanted them to reject the whole premise of working for money and start figuring out how to make money work for them. That required waking up their financial minds, not just satisfying their immediate desire for more allowance.
Okay, so if step one is breaking that psychological fear-desire trap and engaging the brain, step two must be learning the actual rules of the game, right?
Yeah.
It's the mechanics.
Yes, and that boils down to financial literacy, but it's defined very specifically in this philosophy. It's not just about knowing financial terms.
So it's not about how much you earn.
Not primarily. It's about how much money you keep. And crucially, how effectively you manage that money so it lasts, maybe even for generations. Real wealth isn't just a high income, it's sustained financial well-being.
You see those stories all the time, don't you? Lottery winners,
Yeah.
athletes, make millions, then go broke.
Exactly. Perfect examples. They had massive earned income, maybe for a short time, but zero financial intelligence. Money, without the knowledge to manage it, just disappears. Rich Dad mentioned stories from way back, like titans of industry in the 1920s who died broke. It's a timeless problem.
So financial literacy is the foundation. And the cornerstone of that foundation is rule number one.
Rule number one, the single most important rule, according to Rich Dad, and it sounds almost absurdly simple. You must know the difference between an asset and a liability, and then focus on buying assets.
Simple, but clearly missed by many. How did he define asset and liability? Because accountants have complex definitions.
He cut right through that. His definitions were based purely on cash flow, which is maybe why they're so powerful and easy to grasp, yet revolutionary for some. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket.
Okay, generates income.
Yes. And a liability is something that takes money OT of your pocket.
Consumes cash. Simple as that.
Simple as that. And the core reason most people struggle financially, he argued, is that they spend their lives acquiring liabilities that they think are assets.
Which brings us right back to the house argument. The biggest supposed asset for most people.
The elephant in the room, financially speaking. Conventional wisdom screams, your home is your greatest asset.
But Rich Dad says, liability, based on cash flow.
Based purely on cash flow.
Yeah.
For the vast majority of homeowners, the house takes money out every single month. Mortgage payments, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, utilities. It's a constant outflow.
Okay, but what about appreciation? People buy houses hoping they'll go up in value. They sell later for a profit. Doesn't that make it an asset eventually?
That's the common justification, and it's a really important point to clarify. Rich Dad acknowledged appreciation can happen, but he viewed it as a potential speculative gain portfolio income, maybe, if you sell. It's not guaranteed. The liability aspect comes from the guaranteed negative cash flow month after month, year after year.
And the opportunity cost of that cash flow.
Huge. Think about it. Pouring all your extra money into a big house payment and upkeep means you lose several things. You lose time, you have to work harder, longer, just to service that liability.
Makes sense.
You lose capital money spent on property taxes, insurance, repairs, could have been invested in something that actually produces income.
Right.
And maybe most importantly, you lose education. If all your surplus cash is tied up in the house, you have nothing left over to invest. You never learn about stocks, bonds, real estate investing, starting a business. You never gain the practical experience that builds true financial intelligence. Your financial muscles stay weak because they're never exercised.
So focusing on the house keeps you stuck needing the paycheck.
It reinforces the rat race. To understand this better, we need to visualize the cash straight into the expense column: food, clothes, entertainment, and crucially, into the liability column: mortgage payment, car loan, credit card debt. The money comes in, hits the statement, and flows right back out again.
Like a leaky bucket.
Exactly. And the dangerous part is, when their income goes up, they get a raise. What usually happens?
They buy a bigger house, a nicer car. Their expenses and liabilities increase right along with the income.
Right. They get pushed into higher tax brackets, too. So more income doesn't mean more freedom. It just means a bigger, maybe slightly nicer hamster wheel. They're trapped servicing liabilities.
Okay, now contrast that with the cash flow pattern of the rich.
It's the complete opposite. Their income statement is primarily fed from their asset column.
So income from businesses they own, rental properties, stocks, bonds.
Yes. That income comes in, covers their living expenses, but then the surplus cash flow doesn't just get spent on liabilities.
Where does it go?
It flows right back into the asset column. They buy more stocks, more real estate, invest in more businesses.
Which generates even more income.
Precisely. The asset column grows, which throws off more cash flow, which allows them to buy more assets. It's a virtuous cycle. Cash flow goes in and compounds. That's why the rich get richer. They're not just earning, they're acquiring things that earn for them.
So the middle-class nightmare is getting that raise, feeling richer, but using it to dig a deeper liability hole. Buying the dream home becomes the trap.
It often is. They might even do things like consolidate debt into their mortgage, thinking they're smart because of the tax deduction, but they just extend the debt sentence. More income without financial intelligence doesn't solve the problem. It often makes it worse. You need to change the pattern, not just increase the flow out.
All right, so if the goal is fundamentally changing that cash flow pattern, getting money to flow into assets instead of out to liabilities, we need to understand the difference Rich Dad drew between your profession and your business. People mix these up.
Constantly. It's a major source of financial struggle, according to the philosophy. Your profession is what you do to earn money. You might be a teacher, a doctor, an engineer, a chef. That's how you generate your primary earned income.
Your job.
Your job, exactly. Your business, however, is your asset column. That's the collection of things you own that generate income for you, independent of your direct labor.
And the mistake is?
The mistake is spending your entire life focusing only on your profession, working hard to make someone else rich. The owner of the company you work for, the shareholders, the bank that holds your mortgage, while completely neglecting to build your own business, your own asset column.
So the solution isn't necessarily quit your job tomorrow.
No, not usually. The advice is often: keep your day job, your profession, for now. Use that earned income to cover expenses, BUT. Dedicate serious time and effort outside of work hours to minding your own business. That means actively, intentionally building your asset column.
Okay, minding your own business sounds good, but what does that look like practically while holding down a 9-to-5?
It means a conscious shift in how you use your non-work time and your money. Instead of coming home and just zoning out or spending money on consumption, you dedicate evenings, weekends, whatever time you can carve out to financial education, researching investments, analyzing deals, and actually acquiring assets.
So it's an active process when that paycheck comes in.
Before you pay a single bill, Rich Dad would say, you allocate a certain percentage, maybe 10%, 20%, whatever you can manage, directly into your asset column. You pay yourself first by buying or investing in something that will generate future income.
And the book specifies certain types of assets that fit this model well, right? Things that don't require you to be there all the time.
Yes, the focus is on assets that generate passive or portfolio income. The main categories are: 1, businesses that you own but don't have to physically run. Think systems-based businesses with managers in place.
Okay.
2, paper assets. Things like stocks, bonds, mutual funds, notes, things that generate dividends, interest, or capital gains.
Portfolio income.
Exactly. 3, income-generating real estate. Rental properties, apartment buildings, commercial spaces where tenants are paying you rent. Passive income.
Makes sense.
And 4, royalties from intellectual property. If you create something, music, a book, a patent, a software, you can earn royalties from it long after the initial work is done.
And the rule for managing this asset column once you start building it?
It was apparently sacrosanct for Rich Dad. Once a dollar goes into your asset column, consider it your employee. It works for you 2047, ideally for generations. You never take it out except to reinvest it into acquiring an even bigger or better asset.
Wow. That's serious discipline. Don't raid the asset column for consumption.
Never. Which leads directly to how the rich handle luxuries differently. This discipline explains the luxury trap.
Oh, so?
The poor and middle class tend to buy luxuries first. They get a raise or a bonus or even just use credit and immediately buy the fancy car or the expensive watch to look rich. This instantly adds to their liability column.
Debt or just cash outflow?
Right. The rich, following this philosophy, buy luxuries last.
Only after the assets are generating enough income.
Exactly. Luxuries are treated as a reward, and crucially, they should be purchased only with the income generated by the asset column, never with your own earned income, or, worse, debt.
The example from the book about the Mercedes.
Yeah, that was powerful. Rich Dad wanted a Mercedes, but he made himself wait. He bought apartment houses first, and only after 4 years, when the cash flow from those rentals was sufficient to cover the car payment and insurance, did he buy the car.
But so the asset bought the luxury.
The asset bought the luxury. His core asset column remained intact and growing. Buying it with passive income was proof of financial success, not just a display financed by future work or debt.
That perspective shift is huge. It also highlights who you're really working for when you're just an employee.
Definitely. The book breaks it down. If you're a typical employee, you're working primarily for 3 entities, and you often get the smallest piece of the pie yourself.
Okay, who are the 3?
Number 1, the company. Your hard work makes the owner or the shareholders richer. You're building their equity, funding their retirement.
Right, makes sense.
Number 2, the government. Taxes are usually taken out before you even see your paycheck. Income tax, payroll taxes. The book estimates many people work 5 or 6 months of the year just to pay the government's share.
Ouch. That puts it in perspective.
And the harder you work, the more promotions you get. Often the higher your tax rate becomes due to bracket creep.
So working harder can mean proportionally more goes to the government.
Often, yes. And number 3, the bank. After taxes, for most middle-class families, the biggest chunk of what's left goes to servicing debt, primarily the mortgage, but also credit cards, car loans. You're funding the bank's profits.
Company, government, bank.
They all get paid before you really get to build your own wealth. So just working harder within that system, it mainly increases the share going to those 3 entities.
It doesn't fundamentally change your own trajectory towards independence.
Not significantly. The goal has to be shifting focus. Use the earned income from your job as a temporary tool to acquire assets for your own business, the asset column, which benefits you and your family directly.
Okay, so we understand the mindset shift, the importance of assets over liabilities, and minding your own business. But knowing isn't always doing. There are roadblocks, right? Rich Dad talked about obstacles.
Yeah, he identified 5 main reasons why even people who are financially literate, they understand the concepts, still fail to actually build wealth, to grow that asset column. Psychological barriers, mostly.
What's the first big one?
The biggest, most universal one is fear. Specifically, the fear of losing money. Everyone feels it, rich or poor.
Nobody likes losing money.
Nobody. But the difference, Rich Dad argued, is how you manage that fear. The rich aren't fearless. They just don't let fear paralyze them.
How did he suggest managing it? He had that Texan attitude idea.
Yes. It sounds a bit stereotypical, but the point was about embracing risk, or at least not being crippled by the possibility of loss. Texans, in his analogy, go big. When they win, they brag. When they lose, it's spectacular, but they get back up.
So it's not about being reckless, but about being willing to engage.
Exactly. People who play it too safe financially are guaranteed to lose out on major opportunities. Winning requires accepting that some losses might happen along the way. Failure isn't the end, it's feedback.
He used the Alamo analogy too, didn't he? A defeat that became a source of strength.
Right. Remember the Alamo. Failure can inspire winners. It just defeats losers. If your fear of losing is way stronger than your desire for freedom, you'll stick to safe things like savings accounts, which basically guarantee you'll never achieve real wealth growth. You have to be willing to risk something. He even said, "Show me a happy loser and I'll show you a loser." You shouldn't like losing, but you shouldn't let the fear of it stop you from playing the game.
Okay, fear is number 1. What's the second obstacle?
Cynicism. That voice of doubt, the Chicken Little saying the sky is falling on every potential investment.
The person who finds fault with every opportunity.
Precisely. Cynics criticize everything. Winners analyze. Unchecked doubt and fear breed cynicism. They focus only on the I don't wants.
Like what?
I don't want the hassle of tenants, or I don't want to fix toilets if considering real estate, or I don't want to lose money in the stock market, so they avoid it entirely.
They focus on the potential problem and stop there.
Yes. Instead of analyzing how to manage the risk, don't want to fix toilets, hire a good property manager that's solving an operational issue with the system. Afraid of stock market crashes, learn about diversification, asset allocation, maybe use stop-loss orders to limit potential downside.
Analysis over negativity.
Absolutely. Cynicism is expensive.
Yeah.
That doubt costs people real opportunities. The book tells a story about a friend who missed out on a really high-yield tax lien certificate, like 16% interest, because a cynical neighbor convinced him it was too risky or complicated.
Wow. That neighbor's fear cost him money.
Big time. So you need analysis, not just knee-jerk dismissal. Okay, obstacle number 3.
What is it?
Laziness. But maybe not the kind you first think of.
And not just couch potato laziness.
No. Rich Dad observed the most common form is actually staying busy. People fill their lives with activity, often work-related or just busy work, as a way to avoid confronting something truly important but maybe uncomfortable.
Like dealing with their poor financial situation. Or maybe health issues or relationship problems.
Exactly. Staying busy feels productive, but it can be a sophisticated form of procrastination, avoiding the big, scary things that really need attention, like building that asset column.
So what's the cure for this busy laziness?
A little bit of controlled greed, or maybe better put, desire. Using the OEIMM principle, what's in it for me?
How does that help?
Remember, I can't afford it, shuts the brain down. Well, guilt about wanting things can also shut the brain down. Society often tells us wanting nice things is greedy or bad. Rich Dad flipped that. He said, use that desire. If you really, really want something, that nicer house, that trip, the financial freedom, let that desire motivate your financial brain to ask, how can I afford it?
So desire fuels the problem solving.
Yes. Instead of feeling guilty and shutting down, use the desire as fuel to figure out how to build the asset column that will eventually pay for what you want. Let the desire overcome the laziness or the busy work avoidance.
Interesting twist on greed. Okay, 4th obstacle.
Bad habits, particularly the habit of how you handle money when it comes in. This is a big differentiator.
How so?
Poor Dad had the common habit. Bills come in, pay the government taxes, pay the creditors, bills, mortgage, and then, if anything was left over, maybe pay himself, save or invest. Usually, nothing was left.
Pay yourself last or not at all.
Right. Rich Dad preached the exact opposite, and this is controversial. Pay yourself first, even if money is tight. Before the bills, before the tax man.
Whoa, okay, that sounds risky. What if you don't have enough left for the mortgage or the tax bill? Won't that wreck your credit or get you in trouble?
It is risky if you don't have discipline. This isn't about being irresponsible. It's about creating internal pressure. It's like financial weightlifting.
How does the pressure help?
By paying yourself first, putting that money into your asset column, you force yourself to figure out how to cover the remaining obligations. The pressure from creditors, from the government, becomes a powerful motivator. It forces your brain to scramble, to find new income sources, to negotiate better deals, to cut other expenses. It makes your financial muscles stronger.
So the fear of not paying the bills pushes you to be more creative financially.
Exactly. If you pay yourself last, there's no pressure. You just accept there's nothing left. You get financially weaker because you never had to stretch or hustle.
But there's a big warning label on this one, right?
Huge warning label. Rich Dad stressed. You must keep your expenses low. Don't get into huge consumer debt using this method. And crucially, when the pressure mounts because you're short after paying yourself first, you never dip into your savings or investments to cover the bills. That defeats the whole purpose.
So what do you do if you're short?
You let the pressure build. You use it as inspiration. Find a way. Generate new income, sell something you don't need, negotiate with creditors. You don't cave and raid the asset column you're trying to build. It requires serious self-control.
Okay, intense. What's the 5th and final obstacle?
Arrogance, which Rich Dad said is often just ignorance wearing a mask.
How does that work?
Simple truth. What you know about money, investments, taxes makes you money. What you don't know loses you money. Arrogance is when someone pretends to know something they don't, usually out of ego or embarrassment.
They bluff their way through instead of admitting ignorance.
Exactly. They might criticize investments they don't understand, or give bad advice based on ego rather than knowledge. A truly intelligent person, Rich Dad argued, welcomes new ideas. They aren't afraid to say, I don't know, and then immediately seek out the knowledge.
So the antidote to arrogance is?
Humility and action. When you realize you're ignorant about a subject, a type of investment, tax law, whatever, the immediate next step should be education. Find an expert, take a class, read books. Invest in your financial intelligence first. That's the foundation for overcoming ignorance and avoiding the losses that arrogance causes.
Right. We've navigated the mindset, the core mechanics, the psychological hurdles. Now let's get into some more concrete, actionable stuff. How do you actually accelerate this process of getting money to work for you? Rich Dad talked about formulas.
Yes, he emphasized mastering formulas, basically, recipes for making money. The old standard formula is work hard for money. The new formula involves understanding specific strategies for acquiring assets and generating passive or portfolio income.
And learning these new formulas requires speed.
Absolutely. In today's world, things change so fast: markets, technology, tax laws. Rich Dad believed that how fast you learn new information and adapt is actually more important than what you currently know. Static knowledge gets outdated quickly. You need to be a rapid learner.
Okay, so learning fast is key. Did the book offer specific examples of actions, maybe related to learning or finding deals?
It did, especially in real estate, which was his primary vehicle early on. One key idea was make lots of offers. Don't just analyze forever. Get out there and make offers on properties, lots of them, often low offers.
But how do you do that safely? What if you offer too low or get stuck with a bad deal?
You use escape clauses. Offers contingent on inspections, financing, partner approval, clauses that let you back out if the deal isn't right upon closer look. The point is, you often don't know what a seller will really accept or what the right price is until you put an offer on the table and get a reaction. Volume increases your chances of finding that motivated seller, that bargain.
So it's about active engagement with the market, not passive observation.
Constantly. Actively searching for change, for bargains, looking in neighborhoods undergoing shifts, looking for distressed sellers, looking for opportunities that others miss because they're too slow, too afraid, or frankly, too busy working their day job to even look.
Makes sense. Now, you mentioned earlier something about the biggest secret of the rich related to structure.
Ah, yes, the corporate structure. This was a cornerstone of Rich Dad's strategy for accelerating wealth. He saw understanding and utilizing corporations as a massive advantage.
Okay, unpack that. How does owning a corporation give you such an edge compared to just being an employee earning a salary, especially taxes?
It fundamentally reverses the flow of money relative to taxes. Let's take a simple example. Imagine two people, same situation, both making $100,000 a year.
Okay, employee A and business owner B.
Perfect. Employee A earns $100K. What happens first?
Taxes come right off the top. Income tax, payroll tax.
Exactly. They get taxed first, often at the highest rates for earned income. Maybe they're left with, say, $65,000 after all taxes. Then, from that $65,000, they have to pay for their car, their meals, maybe some work-related education, supplies. They're using post-tax dollars for almost everything.
Okay. Now, business owner B, who runs their affairs through a corporation, how does their $100,000 flow?
The corporation earns the $100,000. But before taxes are calculated, the corporation can legally deduct legitimate business expenses.
Like what?
Things that are ordinary and necessary for the business. This could include a portion of car expenses if the car is used for business, travel for board meetings, even if it's just them, properly documented, certain meals, continuing education related to the business, supplies, professional fees. Let's say they have $30,000 in such legitimate expenses.
So they spend that $30,000 before tax.
Yes. They're using pre-tax dollars to cover costs, some of which might overlap with personal lifestyle expenses if structured correctly and legally. Now, the corporation is taxed only on the remaining profit, the $70,000.
And that $70 area might be taxed at a corporate rate, potentially lower than personal income tax rates.
Potentially, yes, depending on the structure and current laws. Plus, there can be more flexibility in when that profit is taken out and taxed personally. The core difference is the employee earns, gets taxed, then spends. The corporation earns, spends on deductible expenses, then gets taxed on what's left.
That's a huge structural advantage, spending pre-tax versus post-tax dollars.
Massive. And beyond taxes, a corporation also offers legal protection, separating personal assets from business liabilities. So when Rich Dad talked about financial intelligence, using a corporation was a key tool. It helps convert that highly taxed earned income into more favorably taxed passive or portfolio income much faster.
It's like having a different vehicle for your financial journey.
Exactly. One person's walking employee, the other has a car or even a jet. business owner using a corporation. Which brings us back to those three types of income. Understanding them is critical for using this structure effectively.
Right, let's recap those quickly.
1. Earned income. Money from a job, your salary or wages, usually the highest taxed.
Okay.
2. Portfolio income. Money from paper assets, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, generally taxed more favorably than earned income, often with possibilities for deferral.
Right.
3. Passive income. Typically from real estate rentals or businesses you own but don't actively manage day to day. Often the most favorably taxed, sometimes with significant deductions like depreciation offsetting the income.
So the grand strategy, the key to freedom, according to Rich Dad, is
The ability to convert earned income into passive or portfolio income as quickly and efficiently as possible. Use the salary from your job, earned income, to buy assets, real estate, stocks, businesses that generate passive or portfolio income, ideally sheltered within a corporate structure to maximize tax advantages and protection.
that's the engine of wealth creation in this model.
That's the engine. And the idea that investing is inherently risky. Rich Dad dismissed that as the thinking of the financially uneducated. Investing isn't risky if you know what you're doing. Ignorance is risky. Lack of control is risky.
And the idea that it takes money to make money.
Also largely dismissed. He argued it takes a good idea, financial education, courage, and the willingness to act and manage risk. Small amounts of money, combined with high financial intelligence, can achieve far more than large amounts with low intelligence.
So the ultimate goal is clear. Shift from working for money to having money work for you. Build that army of dollar employees.
Build the army, let it grow, and eventually your income from assets will exceed your expenses, making your physical presence at a job optional. That's financial freedom. It means you are smarter than your money. It obeys your commands rather than fear and desire commanding you.
And the first steps don't require huge sums, just that commitment to learn, to ask how, and to use fear and desire as fuel for thought, not just reaction.
That's the starting point. Exercise the mind.
So, reflecting on all this, the real moral seems to be about choice, doesn't it? Every time you get paid, every dollar that comes into your hands, you have a choice.
You do. With every dollar, you decide whether you're building a future of poverty, middle-class struggle, or wealth. It depends on where you choose to direct that dollar into a liability or into an asset.
It depends on the information you feed your head, how you spend your time, what actions you take.
As Rich Dad put it so powerfully, it's what is in your head that determines what is in your hands. Money is only an idea.
A profound thought to end on. Don't just play it safe, play it smart. Learn the rules, build your assets, and make money work hard for you. Your life will likely be easier and maybe happier too.
That's the essence of it. Financial freedom isn't magic. It's a process you choose to engage in.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Let's meet with another podcast soon.